The story began as the world-famous largest aquarium in the world celebrated its opening. Diver Jiang Chen's task is to inspect each aquarium before opening, and he swims to the bottom to see many anomalies. For example, the bloody stingray is a rare species that is almost impossible to see in nature. These are also small mudfish hiding at the bottom, or for example, a diver stuck in coral who needs to be found. Step by step, they are all interconnected to gradually awaken the nightmare stored deep in Jiang Chen's heart. Fears from childhood return, and at the moment of contact, dried-up feelings will arise again. This time, Jiang Chen will have to deal with them personally and return everything he lost. But after many years of separation, brother Jiang Xin has arrived, and the unexpected appearance of a childhood friend ruins all Jiang Chen's plans. Monsters never appear out of nowhere. It will be an unpredictable disaster awaiting everyone. It all started on a dark night, when one of the fishing ships sailed on the endless sea. But even at such a time, work was in full swing on board and the fishermen were using nets and large nets to retrieve the caught fish. One of the fishermen in an orange suit noted that the fishing was successful and they could return tomorrow. But his comrade did not answer him, looking intently at the stars. Then the first fisherman asked him where he was always looking. Looking at the sky, the second fisherman asked his friend if he had heard anything about the stars of Wei. Smiling, his comrade replied that his friend was again picking on some heavenly signs and asked what he saw this time. But the man did not share his comrade's ridicule and said that the Wei stars were not very well positioned right now. This means a great catastrophe is approaching, and behind it, a plague. Then, right after the man's words, a huge flash of fiery light appeared next to the ship. The fragments from the explosion began to fly towards the ship at rapid speed. They flew straight at the fishermen, leaving them injured. Moreover, they destroyed fishing gear and nets, thereby destroying the caught fish. Those who were still standing did not understand what was happening, and one of the fishermen advised everyone not to stand like a pillar, but to grab onto everything they could. The panic on the ship did not subside when a strange purple glow appeared below it. It, like an infection, crawled upward and spread throughout the ship in a black haze. One of the fishermen, holding onto a pole, shouted that he saw a monster. And then he noticed how strange, curved lines of the unknown seemed to penetrate the sailors lying on the deck. They filled a person and kept control over him. At this time, a huge oceanarium called the Living Sea was opening. The opening ceremony was supposed to start in 2 hours, and the visitors were already starting to arrive. The order was given to carry out the final inspection, especially carefully, and report any problems. The guy in the diving mask accepted the order and continued to inspect the aquariums, because 10 years of hard work are being decided right now. He swam deeper and deeper, carefully examining the bottom, while the first visitors watched him through the glass. The whirlpools of small fish brought peace to the soul. The guy continued to swim further and further, exploring the bottom and surroundings. His gaze was attentive and focused on his goal. Then he noticed that some strange creature flashed into the recess of the cave. He looked into the entrance and found a small tunnel. It was a small through-hole in the wall. Then a huge stingray began to fly out of it towards the guy, frightening him. But the guy hid behind the wall and the stingray did not notice him and did not attack. The huge fish swam away, leaving the diver behind, but the guy noticed something interesting. The stingray was injured. He immediately called Sector C8 and introduced himself as Jiang Chen from Sector C7, telling them that he had discovered an injured stingray heading towards them and asked them to take care of it. And then, after a couple of seconds, I heard accepted in response from the guys from Sector C7 and relaxed. After some time, Jiang Chen climbed out of the aquarium using a special ladder. He immediately heard a familiar voice saying that some guy was looking for him. Turning around, the guy saw a familiar employee who said that the guy standing in front of her with a bouquet of flowers wanted to talk to Jiang Chen alone. Taking off his mask, Jiang Chen recognized the guy opposite him as his brother Xin, adding emotionlessly that they had not seen each other for a long time. The brothers sat down to talk right in the hall. Xin said that since their mom passed away, Dad's health has deteriorated, and yesterday he was admitted to the hospital, and when he woke up, he said that he wanted to see Jiang Chen. Therefore, Xin, sadly holding the bouquet, told his brother to get ready and go with him to his father, but he sharply refused. Xin was outraged and shouted, "Why is his brother so adamant?" After all, he wasn't home for 4 whole years, and now their father is in terrible condition, and his brother doesn't even want to see him. Jiang Chen coldly said that Xin should be enough for them, and Chen himself still had business here. Xin angrily took his brother's diving mask and, throwing it away, flew at Chen, indignantly asking what kind of business he had. Did he really forget that their mother died in the exact place where Chen got stuck in the cooler? She wanted to save him and didn't come back, and in order for this place to continue operating, this situation was hidden. And how dare Chen say that the family only needs Jin? And if Dad hadn't shouted Chen's name all night, Shin would hardly have come here. Even if Chen's brain was damaged after that incident, he couldn't be so indifferent to his parents. But when their mother passed away, Chen didn't shed a tear. He didn't care when Shin was hurt. And now it's the same when their dad is sick. But Shin no longer cared, and he told his brother to do what he wanted. He doesn't want to know him anymore anyway. But Chen also responded indifferently to these cold words from his brother that he didn't want to know him either. From what he heard, Shin fell into even greater disappointment and shock. Out of anger, he attacked his brother with a bouquet, which he had been holding in his hands all this time. The flowers scattered, and Chen extended his hand to the fallen bouquet. He said that 4 whole years had passed and his brother had not changed. The bouquet included a small note, "In memory of my mother." Then the sounds of help from B3 were heard in Chen's work earphone. Then a heart-rending scream was heard and the sound stopped. Another voice was heard, saying that they had problems with the control panel and ordered the divers from Sector C7 to immediately help the divers from Sector C8. They also warned that if they are faced with an unsolvable problem, they should return immediately. Chen accepted the order. A few seconds later, he was already in the water and swimming in the indicated direction. But suddenly, going down to the bottom, he noticed something strange. There were many dead fish there. Chen assumed that they had forgotten to feed them. Swimming further, he suddenly noticed what he was looking for and swam towards the target. The guy noticed another diver lying at the bottom. He was stuck in the coral, and Chen thought that he was unconscious, but did not know that there was no way to save him. He swam closer and extended his hand towards the lying guy. But suddenly he grabbed Chen's hand sharply and firmly. Jiang Chen immediately activated his earpiece and introduced himself, saying that he was from Sector C7 and asked if the diver was conscious. But there was no answer. But Chen drew attention to the twisted fingers of the guy who grabbed him. It was very strange because the grip was strong, but the fingers looked strange. Then the diver's mask began to open due to his movements, and it became clear that something was wrong with him. A clownfish swimming by was frightened by these movements and quickly swam past. Finally, the mask fell off, and under it was the guy's pale face, covered with strange purple stripes, similar to that same strange creature. This greatly frightened Chen, who was already trying to escape from the diver's grip. But he did not let go of the guy who was trying to free himself. The diver's arms stretched, but did not let go of Chen, until strange glowing tentacles appeared above them. Chen was focused on the diver out of fear, not noticing a huge strange creature with tentacles above him. At this time, Zhang Xin walked angrily along the corridors of the oceanarium and answered his father in a text message that his brother would not be able to come to him. Then someone called out to Zhang Xin. Turning around, he saw his old acquaintances. The girl from the company also recognized little Xin, whom she had not seen for a long time. But looking at the guys, Zhang Xin couldn't remember them. One of the guys ran up to Xin and said that if Tang Ting had not met Zhang Chen here, they would not have known where he worked. The guy also added that Xin's relationship with his brother is not the best, and after he left the house, they did not contact each other. It was as if he had dissolved. And then he asked Xin where he had been all these years and whether he graduated from university. Xin replied that he was only in his first year now. Another tall guy walked up to Xin and introduced himself as Tang Ting and his friend as Fang Song and asked if Xin remembered them. Looking again at the guys surrounding him, Xin naturally remembered them. After all, how can you forget those wonderful days? They were all children of aquarium workers. From the time of founding until the incident with Mom, all these 5 years they hung out together. Turning to his friends, Xin asked what his friends were doing here. Perhaps you came to the opening? Fan Song replied that Xin was almost right. Although this aquarium is very important to them, the main goal was to find Zhang Chen. After all, they hadn't gotten together for so long, and ever since Tang Ting told them that Zhang Chen was working here, it was decided that they would all come together and surprise him. Tang Ting added that they wanted to find Chen and ask him to invite Xin, but they did not expect to meet Xin himself in this way. The girl standing next to her said that after the accident she was very worried about her brothers, but now everything seems to be fine, and she was needlessly stressing herself out. Xin looked to the side indifferently and, holding back his emotions, agreed that everything was fine. Then the girl flirtingly said that Xin had become very handsome. Fan Song immediately took Xin aside and told the girl to hold her horses. Isn't Xu Rojwo her little tail following her everywhere? The friends continued to chat and laugh, reminiscing about the past, while an injured stingray swam in the aquarium behind them. Then Xin noticed the wounded animal and was surprised. People around also noticed the stingray and its injury and began calling for staff. Taking a closer look, everyone wondered what kind of purple tentacles were sticking out of the fish. Xin, leaning against the glass, stared worriedly at the stingray. At this time, his brother Chen was still at the bottom of the aquarium. He was trying to understand what kind of strange creature with tentacles was in front of him. Chen didn't know whether to do anything, especially since he only had a diving knife with him. Then a familiar voice sounded in the guy's head, which gave him goosebumps. He remembered the face of his mother, who swam after Chen, plunging deeper and deeper. Chen called his mother for help, and the sounds from his mouth turned into bubbles. Mom screamed at him and told him not to be afraid, rushing closer to her son. And now Chen seemed to hear her voice again, coming from a strange cluster of tentacles. At this moment, all the dust-covered pictures in my mind came to life. Feelings of indescribable pain from loss, forgotten for a very, very long time. At his mother's funeral, those present often commented that Chen looked as if nothing had happened. Someone said that the guy even has problems with his head, so he does not experience any feelings while his younger brother is choking in tears. People said that Shin was left alone because his brother was sick, and old man Zhang had already suffered enough, and now this too. Shin, crying loudly, then asked Chen if he would never see his mother again. The feelings were hidden then, and remained so for a long time. But now they have reached Chen's heart again. His eyes filled with tears and fear as he remembered the past. At this time, strange tentacles began to wrap around his hand. This caused Chen to suddenly wake up and come to his senses. He immediately jerked his hand back, freeing himself from the tentacles. It didn't take much time for the guy to start floating further and higher. Faster and faster he approached the end of the aquarium, wanting to get out as quickly as possible. He was almost at his goal and saw light at the top. Swimming up, he grabbed the handrail of the iron stairs with his hand and was about to get out completely. But something strange was wrapped around his leg again, similar to those same tentacles. It was the same diver whom Chen found at the bottom, stuck in the coral. It was this diver who grabbed Chen with his tentacles and began to pull him down, and the guy's hand slipped off the iron handrail. None of the cleaners passing by even had time to notice the hand missing in the water and the splashes. The monster continued to pull me to the bottom, and the guy thought that he was finished. His leg did not obey him, and his eyes expressed horror and fear. But then he felt someone grab his hand and pull him up. Looking up, Chen saw his brother Shin half submerged in the water, trying to save him. Chen was surprised that his brother was able to notice him and decided to help. Shin eventually managed to pull Chen out of the pool. Then Fansong appeared out of nowhere and said that when he saw the monster fish, Zhang Xin seemed to break loose and run to the pool, and Chen just happened to be there. And then he asked if everything was okay. Chen recognized Fang Song, and while the friends were chatting, the guy received a message from the center, asking him to send someone to Sector C7 and sort everything out. To avoid panic and disrupt the opening ceremony, you need to ask everyone involved to hide the details of the incident, and violators will be held legally accountable. Thinking, Chen realized that everything was happening the same way as that year. It turns out he was right, and this incident is not like the others. The monster in the aquarium imitated his mother's voice, and when Chen met him, unpleasant memories immediately returned to him. Like long-lost feelings, although not for long, they touched the strings of his soul. The guy wasn't sure, but it seemed to him that if he managed to catch this monster, then perhaps he would be able to experience emotions and feelings again. Shin interrupted his brother's thoughts and said that he thought there was something strange in the water. But Chen replied that his leg was simply cramped, and therefore he could not swim out. The guy understood that his brother shouldn't know about this because if he stirs up the memories of that incident, it will only get worse, so he needs to take Shin far away. Rui appeared, displeasedly saying that it was impossible to keep up with them. Fansong jokingly said that it was really good, and Rojwo asked if everyone was intact and offered to take her bandages. But Chen said that everything was fine. There was just a slight hiccup, and then asked what they were all doing here. And Chen himself thought about a great chance to send them away, but he didn't know whether it would work, and if it didn't work out, then it didn't matter. Then the guy smiled and said that he was very glad to meet them all again, and also that he missed his friends. One of the guys said that the opening ceremony started 10 minutes ago, now they can only go to the end of the line. Fansong joked, saying that no one understands this without stupid Tang Ting. The girl said that she was still amazed because so many people had quit since then, including their parents. So she didn't think that Zhang Chen would get a job here as a diver. The guy indifferently replied that it was a coincidence, and his brother Shin said that he didn't have time to ask before, but what are his friends doing now? The girl pointed to Zhuozhuo's friend and replied that they were still studying. She herself studies biology, Zhuozhuo medicine. Dong Ke seems to be studying economics. Dong himself confirmed and said that it will be released this year. Fansong added that Dong has already received 4 internship offers, and when they meet next time, he will already be a specialist with a salary of 1,000,000 yuan. Zhuozhuo was surprised, and her friend added that for Dong Ke and his mother, all the effort had paid off. Then Chen looked around and suddenly abruptly told Shin that he would go to his father with him, but first he needed to change clothes, and then immediately hit the road. Shin was very surprised. Dong Kei asked Chen why he was in such a hurry. Had something serious happened? But Chen, smiling, replied that his partner was simply ill and invited his friends to visit him too. Tang Ting immediately gathered himself and said that if this was the case, then they too would not go to the opening ceremony and would go with their brothers to visit their father. Shin, looking at Chen, told him to quickly change his clothes and added that they would wait for him at the entrance. But Chen grabbed his brother by the elbow and said in an orderly tone that he would go with him. But Shin looked at Chen angrily and, objecting, said that he would wait for him at the entrance. Then Tang Tian appeared between the brothers and, separating them, said that it was only 10 minutes on foot and on the spot, so there was no need to be afraid of losing each other. Moreover, Tang Ting warned that he and everyone else would be with Shin, so everything would be fine. Chen finally agreed and let go of his brother's hand, replaying the time 10 minutes in his head. Walking towards the exit, Fan Song suddenly said that he had always thought that Zhang Chen was having a hard time. And then he asked Shin if the brothers were satisfied with the current state of affairs. Then a huge wounded stingray crashed into the glass and water began to flow out due to the crack that had formed. Looking up, Shin couldn't believe his eyes when he saw a very strange phenomenon. Many different fish began to fall to the bottom of the aquarium. The stingray was the first, and its weight put a lot of stress on the glass, which began to crack. The fish continued to fall onto the glass surface, creating more and more pressure and new cracks. The aquarium system detected a violation of the integrity of the hull, noticed a leak, and activated the emergency closing of the doors. And then she said that she needed to leave the premises immediately. The system asked to leave the room several times, and then began to talk about detecting a problem in B3. But it was too late, as water from under the glass had already begun to pour out. There was already a lot of it when Dong asked why the system suddenly decided to close the door. And Fan Song noticed that the water was rising quickly and was already knee-deep. The girls stood in panic. Dong decided to run away, and Rue, out of fear, took Song's hand, which surprised Kugo and Zuozhuo. Shin immediately ordered everyone to calm down and said that they would get out, but suddenly a cry for help was heard behind him. Turning around, Shin saw a man who seemed to be dragged down by something and could not get out. Shin immediately rushed to the man, telling him not to panic, and giving him his hand began to pull him out. But the man did not move, which surprised the guy. He didn't understand where there was so much resistance. Grabbing the wall of the aquarium, the man screamed and said that he could not move. The water kept rising, and Shin held the man, but realized that he was not moving at all. Was there really something holding him down? Diving down, Shin noticed that strange tentacles had wrapped themselves around the man's leg and were not letting him go. The man continued to ask for help and scream when a strange creature began to crawl out of him. Then a strange creature, resembling an open flower, emerged from under the water and attacked Sin. But then someone behind the guy threw his jacket at this creature, disorienting him. It was Chen who grabbed his brother and began to pull him away from the drowning man. Shin finally released the hand of his brother, who was drowning under the force. And then Chen pulled his brother towards the exit, which should have been open. But, approaching the door, Chen realized that things were bad and they didn't have time. The exit button was lit red, signaling that the doors were locked. Then a fire extinguisher flew right into the closing door and got stuck between the doors. Tang Ten's hand appeared from the door, shouting to the brothers to come through quickly, since the fire extinguisher would not last long. Chen immediately pushed his younger brother towards the exit, telling Shadow to catch him. Shadow pulled Senya out of the room, but the door continued to close, clutching the fire extinguisher. Having fallen to the ground, Sen immediately turned around and began to call his brother. The fire extinguisher began to bend under the weight of the closing door wings. But Zhang Chen jumped out of the flooded room at the last moment. The door closed, forcing the dented fire extinguisher out. Later, the water that had leaked into another room quietly began to drain into special holes. Frightened, Dong Kei immediately asked what happened, and the girl nearby suggested that it was a surprise attack from monsters. Walking into the hall, the guys saw flooded equipment and collapsed decorations prepared for the opening. Frightened, Ruozhuo slumped down the wall, saying that everyone was dead, and then excitedly told Rui to look straight ahead. In front of the girl were dehydrated people, shrouded in a strange glowing plant. Rui, seeing this, could not believe her eyes because it was impossible. She studied many marine organisms. The body-enveloping sea animal is a sea squirt, but it cannot simply penetrate a person. Dong Kei looked at the phone in fear and asked if anyone had a signal, since he needed to call his mother, but there was no connection. Shin's text message to his father saying that Chen would come to visit him was also not sent. At this time, Chen approached his brother and said that he could not contact the people who were in the aquarium, and now chaos was starting around. Surely everyone was panicking, so Chen told his brother to follow him. But Jin, turning around, only gave him a look full of anger. But he did not have time to say anything because they began to knock heavily on the door, which was closed, creating dents on the iron. Everyone present immediately turned in fear towards the door, from which water began to ooze. Nobody knew what it was, but everyone understood that they had better get out of here, but no one knew where to escape. Shin said they can't contact the outside world and there are no other survivors nearby, but it's okay. Pointing to his brother, who turned away, Shin said that Zhang Chen was with them, so they could get out of here. But the brother only turned indifferently and coldly towards Shin. Rui confirmed Shin's words, saying that Zhang Chen had worked here for a long time and knew the layout of the building well. Surely he could find a safe exit. Fang Song smiled and said that they all need to follow Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen calmly replied that the nearest entrance is in the left wing, but he would advise entering from the right. The road will take a little longer, but there is a security room there. The guys need to be on the safe side and take weapons. Rui agreed, but said with doubt that this sea squirt is an unusual marine organism. So many people have already died, so they cannot go empty-handed. Turning around, Shin called Zhang Chen and set off. The guys found themselves in an area with jellyfish. This place looks safe. Fan Song noted that at least jellyfish couldn't break glass. But Shin told everyone not to relax. Then a strange knocking sound from the tentacles of a jellyfish was heard on the glass from the inside of one of the aquariums. Everyone stared in surprise at the unusual creature. Rui asked Chen if they had this type of jellyfish in the aquarium, but the guy replied that, as far as he remembers, they didn't have such unusual jellyfish. Then Roy replied that it seemed that her guesses were correct, and although she did not know for sure, it seemed that organisms had evolved. The changes led to abnormally accelerated growth and increased muscle mass. Here, one of the jellyfish once again hit the aquarium with its tentacle, along which a crack appeared. In the end, the aquarium crashed, and the creatures, oddly enough, flew out of it, heading towards the guys. Donkey asked in horror why jellyfish move on land. Fan Song, taking his hand, said that now is not the time to think about it, since they need to escape. Rui Ran, holding Zhuozhuo's hand, shouting to everyone to be careful, as the tentacles were poisonous. The guys split up. Tang Ting shouted as the others ran forward into the exhibition hall. Zhang Chen said that they should join them quickly and asked where the creature went. Tin replied that it seemed to have fallen through the ground. Tin said with suspicion that the jellyfish seemed to be playing hide-and-seek with them. And then he added that when they played hide-and-seek as children, he was afraid that because of his high position, it would be too easy to find him. In those years, only Chen gave in to him and pretended not to notice so that they could continue playing. And then, turning to Zhang Chen, Tang Ting said that they always blamed themselves for that terrible incident. When they played a prank on Zhang Chen by accidentally pushing him into the water, Ting looked at Chen awkwardly and asked if he was still angry about their mistake. Chen answered indifferently in one word that no. Then Tin called out to his friend in fear, and his eyes filled with horror. The same creature with tentacles appeared above Zhang Chen and loomed menacingly over the guy. Zhang Chen, as if not feeling the danger, looked up at the dangerous creature, which released its sharp tentacles at the guy. But then someone pushed Chen away. It was Tin, who took the blow of the tentacles that pierced him onto himself. Zhang Chen immediately hid behind another aquarium, looking at the creature that had pierced his friend with 3 tentacles. Tin fell, and a dangerous jellyfish towered over him. The guy could no longer be saved. But Chen only thought that somewhere nearby there should be another such individual. When the creature disappeared, Chen came out of hiding and remembered his brother. He was wondering how Zhang Xin was doing. After crossing over Ting's body, Chen realized that he could not be saved, but those same strange purple things appeared on his body. The guy suggested that these were some kind of parasites. At this time, Xin pushed Donkey aside, looking at another aquarium. A crack also appeared in it, and there were small jellyfish inside. Xin, as he ran away, said that they couldn't hide forever as it was pointless, so he told his friends not to move so that Xin could distract the creature. Medusa pointed her tentacles at Xin, but he dodged and ran on. Watching this, Rui wondered why the creature was so fixated on Zhang Xing and did not pay attention to others. She thought that Xin could do something special, and then it dawned on her, as she remembered a very interesting fact. The jellyfish has neither eyes nor ears, but it is able to respond to light and infrasound vibrations. Therefore, every time Zhang Chen moves, the jellyfish finds the right place to strike. Hiding behind a column, Rui shouted to everyone not to move and said that no one would be attacked this way. At the last moment, Xin froze under the frightened glances of his friends, right in front of the sharp tentacle. Everything froze. The jellyfish actually stopped attacking the immobilized Xin. After some time, she turned around and flew away from the guy and the other guys. Flying past Song and Kei, the jellyfish did not notice any hesitation, as the guys sat silently and did not move. The same thing happened when the jellyfish flew past Zhuozhuo sitting in the corner. But the girl was so scared that she could barely restrain her emotions of fear, holding her mouth with her hand. Looking at the girl, Shin realized that things were bad, and Zhuozhuo might not be able to stand it. So he needed to take the jellyfish away from her, but only after it flew away from Zhuozhuo. While the jellyfish was next to the girl, she bit her tongue and repeated to herself that the main thing was not to move. Rui watched in horror from hiding as her friend held on with all her strength. But then the unexpected happened. Rui's phone rang in her pocket, which sounded very loud in the background. Medusa immediately turned and headed towards the girl. Then the phone began to move due to vibration. Eventually, it started to fall out of the pocket. The girl, sitting silently, realized that the vibration had stopped and thought that she had been carried away. But then the phone still fell to the ground, making a loud sound. The girl immediately froze in horror, realizing that now it could be the end for her. Instantly, a tentacle sharp as a saber appeared in front of her. At this time, Chen quietly continued his way barefoot. He moved quickly between the aquariums, avoiding the dangerous jellyfish and holding his shoes in his hands. He was happy when he reached the sign, guessing that according to the inscriptions there would be an exit soon. Here, walking along the floor, he touched something small with his foot. Looking down, he saw the phone, the screen of which lit up when it touched his leg. It was Tang Ting's phone, the screen of which displayed a text message he had sent to his mother. There he wrote that they had found Chen. They would return in the evening and have dinner. Don't let her worry if they were late. Medusa immediately reacted to the sound and turned towards the emotionless guy. The creature made a sharp jerk and attacked Chen. He felt the same emanating sound that the guy made. And then he pierced the ground with his tentacles, but Chen was not there, only his sneaker. The guy himself stood at the exit, looking at the jellyfish. He used his shoes as a distraction, and then he threw the second sneaker to distract the jellyfish again. At this time, Rui was sitting with her hands covering her mouth, but because of the dropped phone, she was already doomed. After a couple of seconds, the monster pulled out a tentacle with strange purple lines. But he did not do it himself, but under the pressure of the hands of Fansong, who, wrapping his shirt around the tentacle, began to pull it out. But it was too late, as he had already managed to pierce the girl. The girl fell under the screams and questions of Fansong, who asked if she was okay. Then Shin appeared behind Song, shouting to his friend to let go of the tentacle and lie down. But Fansong could no longer move, as his body no longer obeyed him. Then someone's phone flew towards the monster. This was done by Shin, who decided to distract the monster and call him loudly. At that same second, Shin tensed his legs and pushed off with all his strength for a powerful jerk. And then he moved sharply and began to run away so as not to fall under the sharp tentacles. Fansong looked at the friend who saved him with fear in his eyes. And Shin himself told them not to think about him and that he could handle it. And the rest needed to check how Zhou Rui was doing. Shin understood that he had to stop so that they would stop attacking him. But the frequency of strikes is too high, so there is no chance of stopping to stay alive. It's kind of a vicious circle. Here, right in front of Shin, a sharp tentacle hit the wall, along which cracks appeared. Then, out of nowhere, a hand appears and threw a weapon to Blue, shouting, "Catch it!" Shin deftly caught the gun, squeezing it in his hands. And then a shot rang out, which broke the sharp tentacle heading towards the frightened Shin. Then Shin saw his brother holding a small crossbow in his hands. Chen asked Shin in surprise, did he still need to be taught how to use underwater weapons? Loading his weapon, Shin replied that of course he didn't need it. And the next second, he confidently aimed straight at the monster. Shin's shot hit the target, piercing right through the monster. Medusa flew away and was nailed to the wall by an arrow. At this time, Ruozhuo and Fansong are helping Rui, trying to find the wound and stop the bleeding. Fansong told Ruozhuo not to cry and asked what happened to Rui anyway. Almost hysterically, Zhuozhuo replied that Rui was mortally wounded. There was too much blood, and it was difficult to stop her. While the guys were fussing over Rui and trying to stop the bleeding, Chen, who approached them, told Dongke that he could already move, and then added that it was very good that he still remained calm even in such a situation. Kei looked at Chen angrily and asked if the guy was hinting that Kei himself was helpless. But Chen only calmly replied that he didn't think so, but, on the contrary, in this way he made a compliment. And if Zhang Xin's pot could cook half as well as Dong Kei's, they would have saved a lot of time. But then the jellyfish, killed as everyone thought, began to squirm, and everyone was surprised that she was still alive. Fansong immediately began to take out another arrow from Chen and said that he would deal with the monster. But someone immediately grabbed his hand and did not allow him to use the weapon. It was Zhang Xin who said that it was wrong to be impulsive now, as it was too dangerous to approach the monster now. So first they need to find a cure and more weapons. Fansong agreed with Shin. Here Jiang Chen said that from the jellyfish aquarium you will have to walk to the first aid station, but first you need to go to the security room and take more weapons. And there is also an excellent security system to leave Zhou Rui there. Then Shin turned to his brother and asked where Tang Ting had gone. Chen sadly lowered his head and said that Ting was dead. He died before Chen found the weapon. Fansong was horrified and cursed. Donkey simply stared at the point and was silent, and Zhuozhuo was horrified and could not believe it. Finally, the friends reached the security room. Fansong, who was holding Rui in his arms, noticed that there were indeed a lot of weapons there. Chen added that you can get here using an employee card or a code that everyone needs to remember. Wonder 37893. Shin added that when deep-sea creatures appeared in Aquarium 6 years ago, the number of weapons increased. If someone is not good at shooting, then it is better to take harpoons or something similar, preferably so that everyone can fight both underwater and on land. And then Shin asked Jiang Chen to take some more weapons. But Jiang Chen did not respond to his brother's request. Turning around, Sen noticed that he was not in the room with everyone. Sen went to look for his brother and called him, passing by the aquariums. He noticed his brother sitting and shining a flashlight into someone's body, examining it. Shin asked Chen what he was doing here alone, and then he recognized the lying guy as Tang Ting. Here, under the light of a flashlight, Tin's body sparkled, as if a current had passed through it. This happened because Chen hit with a stun gun. Shin, seeing this, was very surprised and frightened. He told his brother that he was crazy to examine his friend in this way, but then Chen seemed to see a vision of himself drowning, and the thoughts in his head were confused. He remembered his hand feeling as if it had been struck when he tried to swim out of the pool after finding a diver stuck in the coral. Chen stared at his hand, trying to understand what happened. Did he become infected by getting into the water? Then why is he still alive? What does this virus look like in the human body? Now he can only explore Tinye. Already about to do this, Chen only now noticed the voice of his brother, who all this time was shouting at him to stop. Shin pulled Chen's hand back when strange purple curls suddenly began to grow from Ting's body. Chen said it goes through bones and muscles like an earthworm in the ground. The next second, due to Sin's grip, Chen dropped the knife from his hand. Chen asked his brother what was going on, and he answered him that Tang Tin is his best friend, and Shin knows that Chen does not feel anything because of his death and understands everything, but he still can't do this to him. Chen apologized and said that sometimes he forgets that he should show the right emotions. Therefore, he doesn't know what he should show. Maybe gratitude? Shin looked at his brother angrily and asked if Ting really died to save him. Chen coldly replied that everything was not quite like that, because Shin himself said that jellyfish react to movement, and Tang Ting was the first to notice the jellyfish, screamed, and pulled Chen to the side, which led to the attack. Shin angrily asked, does his brother really want to say that Ting himself is to blame? And then he called Chen an insensitive monster. Suddenly Shin thought to himself that it seemed to him that he too was going crazy, and wanted to take back his words. But Chen said that he shouldn't do this because he really is an insensitive monster. But then he told Shin not to worry, because he had found a way to get his feelings back, and handed his brother a piece of paper, and then asked if Shin had ever wondered why he went to work in this aquarium. At this time, Ruozhuo was still trying to help Rui, but it was to no avail. Fansong said that the girls are already at their limit, and he and Donkey must find medicine, and they don't have time to wait for the others to return. Therefore, it's worth leaving the girls here and going on a search ourselves. Donkey replied that they don't even know where the first aid station is, so they should wait for the guys to return and find out the exact route. Fansong replied that there would definitely be signs to important places like the medical station, and it would be faster if they took the initiative. Rui is already at his limit and they don't have time to wait. Rua suddenly said that if they continued to wait, since they only had 20 minutes left to save Rui, she volunteered to go with Fansong to look for the aid station. But Fansong objected, saying that he needed an assistant who could fight monsters. Therefore, it is better for Zhuo to stay here and look after Zhou Rui. Donkey also calmly tried to justify his position and object, but did not have time. Fansong interrupted him and said that if Sun Donkey does not go with him to the first aid station now, then if he is injured, then he should not expect medicine from him. Donkey said without emotion that he did not know that Song had such a side, but agreed with his friend, going with him on the search. As he left, Song told Ruo to take care of Rui, and warned that they would be back soon. After which the door slammed and the guys left, leaving the girls alone. The wounded Rui squeezed out the words, telling Zhuo not to be afraid, and she held her friend's wound, trying to prolong her life a little more.